The space station hung like a silent giant above the curve of a blue planet. Inside, bright halls stretched with polished metal floors where diplomats and guards gathered for an important meeting. Among the many species present, humans were few, mostly observers, not rulers of this sector. Daniel Carter, a young human officer assigned to security detail, stood at the edge of the great hall. He had no important duty today, only to watch, to stay ready in case of small trouble. He never expected to be noticed by anyone, much less by royalty. The meeting was about to begin. Alien nobles moved with calm steps, their tall guards standing like statues. In the center, a seat was prepared for the princess of the Arivans, a people known for elegance and power. Rumors said she was still very young, but wise beyond her age. Suddenly, the wide doors burst open. The sound echoed, and everyone turned. A small figure ran inside, her soft steps fast against the floor. She wore a silver cloak, her hair shining like threads of moonlight. Her eyes, large and frightened, searched the hall. It was the princess. Gasps spread through the crowd. Where were her guards? Why was she running? The nobles stood frozen, their mouths half open. The alien guards at the far end of the hall raised their weapons but did not move forward. The princess's gaze darted from one face to another, panic in her small hands as she clutched her cloak. Then, to everyone's shock, she rushed across the hall, not to her guards, not to the noble leaders, but straight toward a quiet human at the edge. She ran to Daniel, before he could even move. She pressed herself against his side, holding his arm tightly. Her small frame shook with fear, yet her grip was strong. Daniel froze, his heart racing. Of all the people here, why him? The entire hall fell into silence. The alien guards stood frozen. They could have advanced, could have pulled her away, but something held them still. None dared to step forward. Their eyes flickered between the princess and the human she had chosen as her shield. Daniel looked down at her. She was breathing hard, her lips pressed tight as if holding back tears. He whispered softly, "It's all right. You're safe." He had no plan, no authority to speak those words, but instinct forced them out. The alien nobles began whispering to one another. Some looked angry, others confused. A high-ranking guard finally spoke, his voice deep. "Princess, please return to us." But the princess only clung tighter to Daniel's arm. Daniel felt every eye on him. He could sense the tension thick in the air. One wrong move, one wrong word, and war could break out between humans and Arivans. Yet the princess had chosen him, and somehow that meant something. He slowly straightened his back, placing himself slightly in front of her, though he had no weapon. His body became her shield. The head guard took one careful step forward, but he hesitated. "Human," he said. "Release her." Daniel's voice came out steady, though his chest was tight. "She came to me. I will not force her away." The words echoed in the hall, daring but calm. Murmurs grew louder. The guards glanced at one another, unsure. The nobles leaned closer to listen. The princess finally spoke, her voice small but clear. "No, I will not go with them." The guard stiffened. "Princess, this is not the place for games. You are in danger. Come now." "In danger from you," she whispered. Her words were sharp, cutting through the hall like a blade. The silence deepened. Daniel's heart sank as he realized what this meant. If she did not trust her own guards, then something far darker was happening. He lowered his voice, speaking only to her. "Why me?" Her wide eyes lifted to him. "Because humans are different. You will not hurt me," he was stunned. He had never met her before, yet in this moment she trusted him more than her own people. The weight of that trust pressed heavily on him. The guards began to step forward again, their movements careful but determined. Daniel knew they would not stop long. He had no authority to fight them, no strength to resist. Still, he could not step aside, not when the princess trembled beside him. He raised his hand slowly, palm open. "Stay back," he said. His voice was calm but strong. For some reason, the guards stopped. Perhaps it was the way the princess held him. Perhaps it was the way the crowd watched, waiting to see if the human would truly stand firm. One noble spoke from the side, his tone accusing. "This is an insult. The human has taken the princess hostage." "No!" The princess cried out, her small voice ringing clear. She stepped slightly forward, still holding Daniel's hand. "He did not take me. I chose him." The nobles fell into shock. Even the guards looked uncertain. Daniel knew the situation was dangerous, yet he could feel something changing in the air. For the first time, humans were not invisible here. For the first time, they stood at the center of attention. The princess pressed close again, whispering quickly, "Please, do not let them take me back. There are those among them who wish me gone." Her words chilled him. Assassins? Betrayal within her own people? He did not know, but her fear was real. Daniel took a slow breath. He was just one man. No weapon, no plan. Yet in this moment he had become the wall between her and danger. "Then stay behind me," he whispered. The nobles shouted, demanding answers. The guards argued among themselves, but none dared to strike. They were frozen by the sight of the princess choosing a human protector over her own kind. For long moments the hall stood in uneasy silence, everyone waiting for the next move. And Daniel Carter, once an unnoticed officer, now stood at the center of a storm that could shake two civilizations. The hall remained tense after the shocking moment. The princess of the Aravans still held tightly to Daniel's arm. The guards, though armed and trained, hesitated. They had never seen her reject them so openly. The nobles whispered in worried tones, afraid of what this scene might mean for their politics. Daniel's heart was still pounding. He had been an ordinary officer just minutes ago, unnoticed in the background. Now every eye was on him. He stood tall, hiding his unease, while the small princess leaned against him as if his presence alone kept her safe. The head guard spoke again, his voice slow and careful. "Princess, please return with us. Your place is not with this human." The princess shook her head. "No, I will not go." The refusal cut through the air. The nobles gasped softly. The guard stiffened. The head guard clenched his jaw but did not move forward. Daniel knew he could not stay in the hall forever. The tension was rising, and the longer they stood here, the more dangerous it became. He leaned down slightly, speaking in a low tone meant only for her. "We need to move. Can you trust me to guide you out?" She nodded quickly, her wide eyes filled with both fear and hope. Taking a deep breath, Daniel placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Stay close." With steady steps, he began to guide her away from the center of the hall, moving toward the side passage that led to service corridors. The crowd parted in shock, watching silently. Some nobles shouted protests, but no one stopped him. The guards, strangely, did not attack. They only followed with watchful eyes, as if bound by an invisible chain of hesitation. Daniel pushed open the side door, and together they slipped into the quieter, dimmer corridor beyond. The hum of the station's machines filled the silence. The door closed behind them, shutting away the noise of the great hall. Now they were alone. The princess's hand still trembled. She clung to his sleeve, her silver cloak brushing against his arm. Daniel slowed his pace, letting her catch her breath. "You need to tell me what's happening," he said gently. Her voice was soft but steady. "There are people among my court who want me gone. They do not wish for me to lead. They would rather see another take my place." Daniel frowned. "Your own guards?" "Not all of them. But some," she admitted. "I do not know who to trust. That is why I ran. That is why I came to you. Humans do not play their games. Humans are different." Her words struck him. Humans were not the strongest race in this galaxy, nor the most powerful. Yet to her they represented something important. Honesty, courage, maybe even fairness. Daniel nodded. "Then I'll get you somewhere safe. But first we need to stay ahead of them." He knew the station well enough. He had walked its service corridors during his shifts. They were narrow, often empty, with dim lights and the constant hum of machines, perfect for moving unseen. Guiding her down the passage, Daniel listened for footsteps behind them. None came yet, but he knew it would not stay quiet for long. The Aravan guards would not allow the princess to disappear so easily. The princess kept close, her small steps quick to match his pace. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the maintenance sector," Daniel replied. "There are tunnels there they won't expect us to use." As they moved, he thought about the strange hesitation in the guards back in the hall. Why had they not stopped him? Why had they not rushed forward? Perhaps it was her presence, her decision to stay with him had frozen them. Perhaps they feared the political meaning behind it, but hesitation would not last forever. Soon the sound of voices echoed faintly down the corridor behind them. Daniel quickened his pace. He turned left, leading her down a narrow stairwell. The princess breathed quickly, but she did not complain. She trusted him, and that trust gave Daniel strength. At last they reached the lower sector. The air smelled of metal and oil, the lights dimmer here than in the polished halls above. Few people worked here during official meetings, so the tunnels were empty. Daniel slowed, letting her rest. He leaned against the wall, listening carefully. The voices above were distant now. The princess pulled her cloak tighter around her. "Why did you help me?" she asked suddenly. Daniel looked at her. "Because you needed help." "That's enough." Her eyes softened. She seemed surprised by the simple answer. Perhaps she had expected some condition, some demand. But Daniel wanted nothing except to keep her safe. Before he could speak again, a faint sound reached them, the hiss of doors sliding open somewhere nearby. Heavy steps followed. Daniel stiffened. "They're coming." He glanced around quickly. The tunnel branched ahead, one way leading deeper into the sector, the other toward a storage chamber. He chose the storage chamber, pushing the door open and guiding her inside. The room was dark, filled with stacked containers. He pulled her behind one of the larger crates, crouching low. The princess followed silently, her breathing quiet but quick. Through the small gap, Daniel saw shadows moving past the doorway. The guards had split into groups, searching. The princess's hand clutched his sleeve. Daniel placed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. The footsteps faded after a while. Daniel let out a slow breath. "We can't stay here long," he whispered. The princess nodded. "They will not stop until they find me." "Then we have to stay ahead," Daniel replied. For a moment he studied her. Despite her fear, she carried herself with dignity. She was more than a frightened child. She was a leader in the making, trapped in a dangerous game of power. He stood carefully. "Let's go." They slipped out of the storage room, moving deeper into the sector. Daniel led her through narrow tunnels, across small bridges where machinery whirred below. He used every shortcut he knew, every hidden path he had noticed during his shifts. The princess followed without hesitation. At last, they reached a quieter corner of the station, a small chamber used by maintenance workers. It was empty now, with only a bench and some tools scattered around. Daniel decided they could rest here for a moment. He sat on the bench, motioning for her to sit beside him. She lowered herself carefully, pulling her cloak around her shoulders. Daniel studied her again. She looked tired, but her eyes remained sharp. "You said some of your own people want you gone," he reminded her. "Do you know who?" She shook her head. "Not yet, but I feel it. I see the way they look at me, the way they speak when they think I do not hear. They smile in the open, but in the shadows." She lowered her voice. "They plan." Daniel clenched his fists. Politics and betrayal. He had no training for this. Yet he could not abandon her. "We'll figure it out," he said firmly. "One step at a time." Her eyes brightened slightly at his words. "You really mean to protect me?" "Yes," he said simply. "As long as you need me." She smiled faintly, a small light in the dark room. Before they could speak further, a sudden loud clang echoed down the tunnel outside. The sound of boots followed. The guards were closing in again. Daniel stood quickly, his mind racing. He had no weapon but his own wits. Still, he knew one truth. He could not let them take her. "Stay behind me," he said once more. His voice steady, and so the human officer, with no rank beyond his uniform and no power beyond his courage, prepared to shield a princess against the storm that was about to arrive. The sound of boots grew louder in the tunnel. Daniel's muscles tensed as he stepped in front of the princess, shielding her with his body. The dim lights flickered against the metal walls, and the hum of the station's machinery echoed in the distance. The princess gripped his sleeve, her wide eyes fixed on the shadows drawing near. "They've found us," she whispered. Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no armor, only his training and his will. He glanced around the small chamber where they had taken refuge. Tools, crates, and pipes filled the corners. Nothing strong enough for a fight, but maybe enough for a trick. He crouched beside the princess. "Listen to me. We can't fight them directly, but we can outsmart them." She nodded, her fear mixed with trust. Daniel grabbed a small tool from the bench, a metal rod used for tightening valves. Not much, but in the right hands it could create noise. He tapped it against a pipe, sending a sharp echo down the far side of the tunnel. The sound bounced and traveled, tricking the ear. The approaching guards stopped, their voices low. Daniel heard one mutter, "That way." Then their boots moved away, chasing the false lead. The princess exhaled, relief soft on her lips. "You fooled them, just for now," Daniel replied. "We need to keep moving." He led her back into the service tunnels, weaving through tight passages where wires hummed and steam hissed from vents. The princess stayed close, her silver cloak brushing against his arm. As they moved, Daniel thought of her words from before. "There are people who want me gone." That meant betrayal at the highest level. If he brought her back without proof, those same traitors could silence her, perhaps even blame humans for her disappearance. He glanced at her. "Princess, you said some want to replace you. Do you know why?" She lowered her eyes. "Because I speak for peace. I do not wish for war with humans or with other neighbors. But there are those who think peace is weakness. They want power. They want control." Daniel's jaw tightened. "So they'd rather risk war than lose their place?" "Yes." Her voice was steady now, though quiet. "And if I am gone, they will claim it is for the good of my people." Daniel stopped in the tunnel, facing her. "Then we can't just hide. We need proof. We need to show the council what's happening." Her eyes widened slightly, surprised by his boldness. "You would help me do this?" "I gave you my word," Daniel said simply. For a long moment she looked at him. Then she nodded. "Then we must find the truth together." Before Daniel could reply, a sudden hiss filled the air. A panel above burst open and two shadows dropped into the tunnel. Aravan soldiers, different from the guards in the hall. Their armor was darker, their movement sharper. These were not protectors. These were hunters, the princess gasped, stepping back. Daniel pushed her behind him, his mind racing. The soldiers advanced with cold precision, their eyes fixed on the princess. Daniel gripped the metal rod tighter. He was no match for their weapons, but he would not let them near her. The first soldier lunged forward, reaching for Daniel. Instinct took over. Daniel swung the rod, striking the soldier's arm. The weapon clattered to the floor. For a moment, surprise flashed across the alien's face. Humans were not supposed to resist. "Run!" Daniel shouted to the princess, but she did not run. She pressed against the wall, her eyes wide but unyielding, unwilling to abandon him. The second soldier advanced. Daniel ducked under his strike and shoved him into the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he ignored it. He grabbed the dropped weapon, a stun baton, and swung it hard. Sparks flew as it connected with the soldier's chest. The alien fell back, stunned. The first soldier recovered quickly, his anger clear. He stepped toward the princess again. Daniel's heart pounded. He could not let them take her. With a desperate shout, he charged, slamming the baton against the soldier's side. The crackle of energy filled the tunnel and the soldier collapsed. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of the station. Daniel's breath came heavy, sweat on his brow. The princess stared at him in awe. "You fought them," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "No, I just bought us time." "More will come," he offered his hand. She took it without hesitation, and together they ran deeper into the tunnels. They reached another chamber, this one lined with glowing panels and humming generators. Daniel knew this sector. It connected to the communication systems of the station. He stopped, an idea forming. "Princess, if we can send a message to the human delegation, maybe they can help protect you until we reach the council." She looked uncertain. "Will they listen?" "They'll listen," Daniel said firmly. "Because they'll know I wouldn't call unless it mattered." He moved to the console, typing quickly. The screen flickered, asking for codes he did not have. His access was limited. He cursed under his breath, then stopped, forcing himself calm. The princess stepped forward. "Let me try." Her small hands danced over the panel with surprising skill. Symbols filled the screen and slowly the system opened. She looked at Daniel with a faint smile. Being a princess means learning more than speeches. Daniel grinned despite the tension. "Good to know." They sent the coded message, short and urgent. "The princess is in danger. Trust no Aravan guards. Human officer Daniel Carter has her safe." When the message confirmed, Daniel felt a weight lift slightly. Help might come. But the relief was short-lived. The door behind them slid open. More soldiers stepped inside, their armor black, their weapons ready. They were faster this time, and there were more of them, 4 in total. The princess gasped. Daniel gripped the baton tighter, but he knew he could not win against all of them. One soldier stepped forward, his voice cold. "Human, step aside. This does not concern you." Daniel stood firm, his body between them and the princess. "It does now," the soldier sneered. "You are nothing here, a shadow among greater beings. Step aside and you may live." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Maybe I'm nothing to you, but to her, I'm the one she chose, And I won't move. The soldiers hesitated. For a moment, even they seemed unsure. A human standing against trained killers, such defiance was unexpected. The princess's voice rose behind him, clear and strong. If you harm him, every noble in the hall will know you betrayed me. The words struck like a blade. The soldiers froze. To act now meant exposing themselves. To retreat meant failure. The standoff stretched. Finally, the leader snarled, signaling retreat. The soldiers backed away, their eyes burning with frustration. The door closed behind them. Daniel exhaled slowly, lowering the baton. His legs felt weak, but he stayed upright. The princess stepped forward, her eyes shining. You stood against them. Even when you had no chance, Daniel met her gaze. That's what humans do. For the first time since she ran into the hall, the princess smiled, not with relief, but with hope. In that moment, she saw not just a protector, but a truth her people had ignored. Humans might be small among the stars, but their courage burned brighter than fear. And Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The shadows of conspiracy were everywhere, and the storm had just begun. The station lights flickered as Daniel and the princess moved through the quiet tunnels. The hum of machinery followed them like a heartbeat, steady but tense. Every corner they turned carried the risk of ambush. Yet Daniel kept walking with purpose, and the princess stayed close, her small steps matching his stride. The message they had sent gave him some hope, but he knew help might not arrive soon. Until then, it was only the two of them against a shadowed enemy hidden among her own people. The princess spoke softly as they walked. Daniel, when we reach the council chamber, they will question me. They will question you. They will ask for proof. Daniel nodded. Then we'll give them more than words. We'll show them the truth. She lowered her gaze. But what if they don't believe us? What if the traitors twist the story? Daniel slowed his steps, turning to look at her. Her eyes shone with fear, but also with determination. Then we make them believe, because the truth is stronger than lies if we stand together. Her lips curved in a faint smile. You speak with such certainty. Not certainty, he said honestly. Just choice. And I choose to trust you. Her eyes widened slightly, touched by his words. Then I will trust you too. They moved on, guided by Daniel's knowledge of the station's layout. The corridors grew wider as they neared the central levels where the council chamber rested. But with every step, the risk grew higher. At one crossing, they heard voices ahead. Daniel pulled the princess back into the shadows. Two guards in shining armor passed by, speaking in low tones. Search every corridor. The princess cannot escape. If she is found with the human, it will be easy to claim he forced her. Daniel's jaw tightened. They planned to twist the truth, to frame him as a kidnapper. He glanced at the princess, and she shook her head with anger. They lie so easily, she whispered. Daniel leaned close. Then we don't give them the chance. When the guards moved on, Daniel led the princess down a maintenance shaft, avoiding the patrols. He moved quickly but carefully, using shadows as cover. The princess followed without complaint, her trust in him now complete. Hours seemed to pass in tense silence, though only minutes went by. At last they reached a wide hall lined with tall pillars. Beyond it stood the massive doors of the council chamber, guarded by a dozen Aravan soldiers. The princess froze, her breath catching. So many. Daniel studied the scene. The guards stood like statues, but he knew some might be loyal to the traitors. Entering openly could be dangerous. Yet sneaking past was impossible. The doors were watched too closely. He turned to her. This is it. Once we step inside, everything changes. She nodded slowly, gathering her courage. I am ready. Daniel smiled faintly. Then we walk in together. No fear. Taking her hand gently, he led her out from the shadows. The guards immediately turned, weapons lifting. But when they saw the princess, their formation broke slightly. Surprise spread through their ranks. One of them stepped forward. Princess, you are safe. Please come with us. Her voice rose clear and steady. No, I will go before the council myself. Let them hear the truth. The guard hesitated, glancing at Daniel. And the human? Daniel straightened, his voice firm. I'm with her. The princess squeezed his hand. He stays. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then the guards lowered their weapons, unable to deny her command. Slowly, the massive doors opened, and Daniel and the princess stepped inside. The council chamber was vast, its ceiling high and its floor shining with polished stone. Nobles filled the rows of seats, their robes glittering with wealth. At the center sat the council leaders, their faces stern as they watched the unexpected entrance. Gasps filled the chamber when the princess entered hand in hand with a human. Murmurs rose, questions spilling through the crowd. The head counselor stood. His voice echoed across the hall. "Princess Arya, you vanished from your guard. And now you return with a human? Explain yourself." Daniel felt every eye on them. He stood silent, letting the princess speak. She lifted her chin, her voice clear. "I ran because I was not safe among my own. There are traitors who wish to see me gone. They sent assassins after me. This human, Daniel Carter, saved me when none of my guards would." Shock rippled through the chamber. Some nobles whispered in disbelief, others in anger. The head counselor frowned deeply. "These are serious claims. Do you have proof?" Arya's voice wavered slightly, but she stood firm. "I have seen their shadows. I have felt their betrayal. And when I cried for help, none answered. Except him," the counselors murmured again. One rose, his eyes narrow. "Or perhaps this human seeks to influence her. Perhaps he filled her mind with lies." Daniel stepped forward then, his voice calm but strong. "I am no politician. I gained nothing here. I only acted because she asked for help. That is all." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. The nobles stared, measuring his words. The simplicity of them carried weight. Before anyone could speak again, the doors burst open. 4 dark-armored soldiers stormed in, the same hunters from before. Gasps filled the chamber as they pointed at Arya. "She is compromised," one shouted. "She must be taken at once." Chaos erupted. Some nobles cried out, others demanded order. The council guards moved uncertainly, unsure whether to resist or obey. Daniel stepped forward, shielding Arya once more. His voice rose, strong enough to cut through the noise. "These are the ones who attacked us." "They are no protectors, they are traitors." Arya's voice joined his, trembling but fierce. "He speaks the truth. They came to silence me." The dark soldiers froze, exposed under the eyes of the council. Whispers spread quickly, proof enough had been shown. The hesitation of the guards, the boldness of the hunters, and the princess's words all painted the picture clearly. The counselors leaned forward, their expressions grim. One raised his hand. "Seize them." At once, loyal guards surged forward, surrounding the hunters. The traitors struggled, but outnumbered, they were forced down. Their weapons clattered to the floor. The chamber roared with voices, some demanding punishment, others calling for calm. Through it all, Arya stood tall beside Daniel, her hand still holding his. The head counselor raised his voice. "Order, there will be silence." The hall slowly quieted. He looked directly at the princess. "You have shown courage today, and you, human, have stood where no one else dared. The council will hear this truth." Daniel exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. Arya looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You kept your promise," she whispered. Daniel gave a small nod. "And I'll keep standing until it's over." For the first time, the council chamber saw a human not as a bystander, not as a shadow, but as a shield strong enough to guard a princess. And though the danger was not yet finished, the truth had begun to shine through the lies. The trial of trust was not only hers, it was his as well. And together they had passed it. The council chamber was filled with restless voices. Nobles argued with each other, some supporting the princess, others doubting her words. The captured traitor guards knelt on the floor, their hands bound, but their eyes burned with hidden defiance. Daniel stood beside Princess Arya, his shoulders tense, his eyes scanning the chamber for any danger. Though the council had ordered the traitors seized, he knew the threat was not yet over. The head counselor raised his hand for silence. "We must decide now. The princess speaks of betrayal and the human stands as her witness. But words are not enough. We must see the proof." Arya stepped forward, her voice clear, though her hands trembled. "Then hear me. These men who stand bound before you are not loyal. They hunted me through the station. If Daniel had not protected me, I would not be here. He risked his life when even my own guards failed." Murmurs spread across the chamber. Some nodded with respect, others shook their heads in doubt. One counselor leaned forward, his sharp eyes fixed on Daniel. "And you, human, why did you help her? What do you gain?" Daniel met his gaze without fear. "I gain nothing. I did it because it was right. She asked for help and I could not walk away. That is all." His simple words carried weight. Even those who doubted felt the honesty behind them. But the enemy was not done. From the back of the chamber, a sudden cry rose. Lies, the human twist her mind. Everyone turned. Another group of armored soldiers stormed through the doors, weapons drawn. They were more traitors. Perhaps the last desperate force of the hidden faction. The chamber fell into chaos. Some nobles fled from their seats, others shouted orders. Loyal guards rushed to meet the attackers, but the traitors pushed forward with ruthless speed. Daniel instinctively stepped in front of Arya again, shielding her. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. She gripped his arm, her voice trembling but steady. "No, Daniel. This is not only your fight. I must stand too." Before he could answer, the traitors clashed with the council guards. The sound of metal echoed through the chamber, sparks flying as weapons met. Daniel saw one soldier break through the line, charging straight toward Arya. Without hesitation, Daniel moved. He caught the soldier's arm, twisting it aside, and shoved him back with all his strength. The alien stumbled, surprised by the human's raw force. Arya's eyes widened. "Daniel!" He gave her a quick glance. "I told you, I'll stand until it's over." Another traitor lunged forward. This time Arya lifted her voice, sharp and commanding. "Stop, I am your princess. You defy your own blood." The soldier froze for a moment, caught by her authority. That hesitation allowed a loyal guard to strike and disarm him. Together, Daniel's strength and Arya's command began to turn the tide. The nobles watched in awe. A human and an Aravan princess standing side by side, refusing to fall. The head counselor rose to his feet. His voice thundered across the hall. "Guards, protect them both, for the honor of the crown." With renewed courage, the loyal soldiers surged forward, surrounding the traitors. The fight raged, but the balance shifted. One by one, the enemy was forced back. At the center, Daniel and Arya stood close, their presence like a beacon. Every time an attacker came near, Daniel blocked them, and every time doubt arose, Arya's voice cut through with clarity. Finally, the last traitor fell to the ground, restrained by loyal guards. Silence filled the chamber once more. Heavy breaths echoed in the vast hall. Daniel's chest rose and fell with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed sharp, making sure no threat remained. Arya stood tall beside him, her chin lifted proudly. The head counselor looked down from his seat, his voice solemn. "The truth has been revealed before all of us. There are traitors among our guard. They would have silenced the princess, but she lives because of this human." All eyes turned to Daniel. He shifted uncomfortably under the attention, unused to such honor. Arya stepped forward, her voice clear and full of strength. "Do not look at him as an outsider. Look at him as a protector, as one who did what none else dared. He shielded me not for power, not for gain, but because he chose what was right. That is what true loyalty is." The hall grew quiet. Her words reached into every corner, leaving no space for doubt. Then slowly nobles began to rise from their seats. One by one, they bowed their heads in respect to the princess and to the human who stood at her side. Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never sought glory. He had never wanted to stand in a shining hall with so many eyes upon him. Yet now he realized it was not about him, it was about her. About helping her claim the place that was hers. The head counselor raised his voice again. "Princess Arya, the council will honor your claim. You are the true heir and your courage has proven it. As for the human, he shall be remembered as the shield who stood for truth." Applause filled the chamber, not wild or chaotic, but steady, respectful, filled with meaning. Arya turned to Daniel, her eyes bright with gratitude. "You never left my side. Even when all others failed, you stayed." Daniel gave a small smile, tired but sincere. "I promised I would, and I keep my promises." For a moment they stood in silence, the weight of the battle finally lifting. Around them, nobles spoke of rebuilding, of cleansing the guard, of new beginnings. The station had been shaken, but hope had been restored. Arya took a deep breath. This is not the end. There will still be trials ahead, but with the council's support we can face them. "And Daniel," he looked at her curious, she smiled softly. "I hope you will not leave." "Not yet." Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "As long as you need me, I'll stay." The princess's smile grew brighter. "Then I am not afraid." The chamber, once filled with fear and betrayal, now held a different air. Trust had been rebuilt, and at its center stood a small alien princess and the human who had chosen to protect her. The fight was over, but their bond was only beginning, and so history would remember the day when a human stood unshaken in an alien council chamber. when the small alien princess took shelter at his side, and even the guards stood frozen, unable to deny the strength of truth.